Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Wednesday, April the 3rd. Wednesday, April 3rd. Ian Cameron with you, ready to break down the Wednesday card. Of course, this show presented by Boston Hemp Inc. 5 games tonight in NHL action, including a doubleheader tonight on TNT. Devils, Rangers, followed by Oilers and Stars. Pretty solid doubleheader when you think of it. So looking forward to that. Tampa Bay, Toronto, a pretty good game. Pretty solid card for a Wednesday night. We'll get to that in a moment. First, though, as we always do, we recap Tuesday's card. Alex B. Smith will be back tomorrow. Of course, he's just got back home a couple of days ago, just getting his ducks in order, if you will. And he'll be back with us tomorrow for the big Thursday slate. So we are definitely looking forward to his return. As far as yesterday is concerned, bit of a mixed bag. That's basically been what it's been every day recently for me. It's been up, down, few wins, few losses, win some, lose some. It's that kind of night again, last night in the NHL. And, you got to deal with that, at this time of year. It's very, very unlikely when you get this deep into the season, we're talking the last couple weeks of the season, that you're going to crush the board every single night. It's just not going to happen, and this is those time of the year when teams are fatigued. Schedule is caught up with a lot of teams. Motivation on a night-to-night basis comes and goes. Energy levels night-to-night with teams with, again, all the games they've played in this short period of time. Because, again, all these teams have played a shit ton of games since the All-Star break. And there are nights that you can tell on the ice that they've played so many games. So, it leads to a lot more up and down, nature as far as the results are concerned. Like Washington, Buffalo, for example. The Buffalo Sabres, another one of those yo-yo teams right now. They've had some great games. They end up, beating New Jersey 5-2. Before that, obviously, they got just absolutely destroyed by Ottawa on their home ice. Then they beat New Jersey. Then they fall flat to Toronto on Saturday. They get shut out in their own building by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then last night they respond and they pretty much hammer the Washington Capitals, who, again, are trying to battle themselves for a playoff spot as well. 6-2 was the final score in favor of the Buffalo Sabres in that game. But credit to them, and credit again to Tage Thompson, because some of these recent Buffalo wins, he has played so well for this team. And he once again played very well last night with a goal and 2 assists, 3 points on the night. J.J. Peterka, outstanding. We've talked about him over and over again. He's just been so good for the Sabres offensively. Peterka. 2 goals for him last night. Alex Tuch with a couple of points. The offense opens up against Charlie Lindgren and the Buffalo Sabres. Not completely out of it. I think they're not going to make it, in my opinion, but they had to win that game. I said it yesterday. They had to win it in regulation, and they were able to do that with the victory last night against the Washington Capitals. What else did we see? We ended up seeing the Montreal Canadiens, man, 5-3 against Florida, and you could kind of tell Florida might be a tough game for them. Obviously, late absences of Tkachuk and Verhaeghe did not help. Verhaeghe on a lower body injury and Tkachuk out due to an illness last minute prior to puck drop last night, and Florida gets beaten by a Montreal team that down the stretch here, you better be prepared to play well to beat Montreal, because we've certainly seen them have a nice little run here as of late, and a nice 5-3 win for them. Kind of worried about Anthony Stolarz a little bit. This is now 2 games in a row. The Islander game, I don't think he was nearly as sharp, and you can definitely say that last night. And he's been pretty good in the backup role for Florida, but last 2 starts haven't been as good. Samuel Montembeault playing at a pretty good level. This is now really in 2 weeks, or in a week, I should say, that in 2 different games against upper echelon teams, he's been just dynamite in net. He's been absolutely tremendous. The Colorado game last week in Denver, and 37 saves on 40 shots last night against the Florida Panthers. So pretty impressive here for the Montreal Canadiens, and from Sam Montembeault to get the 5-3 win. Congrats to Matty Robinson. He had the best bet winner on the show yesterday with the over in this game. Never in doubt with that. Unbelievable job by the Pittsburgh Penguins. 6-3 final score over the New Jersey Devils. It was 3-1 New Jersey going into the third period, and they need every game they can get down the stretch as far as wins are concerned to get themselves into the playoffs. And for them to just absolutely shit their pants and urinate all over themselves and just absolutely puke all over that ice surface last night in that third period is just absolute debacle for the New Jersey Devils. Now, you have to give Pittsburgh credit. You certainly have to give Sidney Crosby credit. Another strong game from him. He ends up getting a goal and an assist in that game, the empty netter to put it away. And it was his goal that made it 3-2 early in the third on the power play that really got Pittsburgh into the game and said, hey, guys, we got a chance now at this. And sure enough, New Jersey got tight. New Jersey ended up making mistakes defensively. Jake Allen came back down to earth as well. Not a good night from him. Only 15 saves on 20 shots, 5 goals allowed. Keep in mind, Allen's played very good hockey for the Devils since he arrived. Not one of his better games last night. Pittsburgh opportunistic, and they open up a can on New Jersey. 5-0 in the third period in favor of Pittsburgh to turn a 3-1 deficit into a 6-3 win over the New Jersey Devils in that game. Awful stuff from the New Jersey Devils. And it's looking more and more like Travis Green's audition to become the permanent head coach of this team is not going well. And it's probably going to end up being a situation where they're going to end up opening up a coaching search in the offseason. I just don't think we've seen enough on the board right now, to trust him, to trust that he's going to be the coach moving forward for this team. But what a job by the Penguins. And it's a great night for the Penguins when Geno Malkin scores 2 goals. Geno Malkin's had a brutal year. I think he's had a bad year. I think he's had a year where you have to question, how much does he have left in the tank for the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. But for him to score 2 goals in that third period comeback, that's when it's going very well for sure for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then the other Eastern Conference playoff race, game of consequence, if you will, the New York Islanders had a shot with Chicago. I took them at the big dog price north of plus 200. They got the early lead 1-0, but unfortunately that was all that Chicago would do offensively in that game. The Jason Dickinson first period goal did not stand up. The Islanders end up getting 2 goals in the third, and they hang on for a 2-1 victory over the Chicago Blackhawks in that game. Islanders did, I would say outplay the Hawks, not by a dominant fashion, but Sorokin was solid. And the Islanders find a way, even though it wasn't pretty. They were down going into the third, backs against the wall, kind of, we're really going to lose here on home ice to Chicago. But they found it in the third period, got a couple of big goals, and the Islanders get a 2-1 win there over the Blackhawks. And now if you look at the standings, it is absolutely becoming more and more compacted right now in the Eastern Conference race. It is just amazing to see how this race is playing out. You've got obviously the Philadelphia Flyers, third in the Metro, but only by 1 point over Washington, 2 points over the New York Islanders. And then as far as the wild card goes, you've got Washington there with 82 points, Detroit with 82 points. They currently have the 2 wild card spots, and right behind them, the New York Islanders, 1 point behind Washington and Detroit for the 2 wild cards, 2 points behind Philly for third in the Metro. And here, all of a sudden, written off the last few weeks, and they wrote themselves off too. They traded Jake Gensel to the Carolina Hurricanes at the trade deadline. That was definitely a sign as well that, hey, it's not going to happen for us this year. When they got bombed by Edmonton right before the deadline, we all thought it was over for Pittsburgh. But it's not so much that Pittsburgh's been phenomenal. They've obviously won a few more games than I would have expected. It's that everybody in front of them is shitting the bed. Everyone in front of them is not on putting together any sort of win streak. The Islanders win and lose, win one, lose one. The Capitals lately win one, lose one. Detroit win one, lose one. All this spinning of the wheels from your Detroits and your Washingtons and your New York Islanders. And all of this mediocrity from all of these teams in front have allowed the Pittsburgh Penguins to sneak up and somehow still be in this race, at this point in time. And so it's pretty crazy to see that Pittsburgh right now, with still, they've still got some racetrack left in them. They've still got 7 games left on their schedule, that the Pittsburgh Penguins right now are only 3 points back of Washington and Detroit in the wild card and 4 points back of Philadelphia for third in the Metro. And this team we thought for sure was a gonzo and done like dinner weeks ago. And Sidney Crosby is who you have to thank for that. He has done everything humanly possible to carry this team on his back and try to get them into the playoffs. I still think the odds are stacked against them. I do. You've still got so many teams in front of you, and you're still 3-4 points behind. But man, if the Islanders and the Capitals and the Red Wings and the Flyers, if they keep on stumbling, rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling, like Chris Berman would say, it's going to open the door for the Pittsburgh Penguins. There's no question. So this is now, I can't say it enough, how just last night's results have made this Eastern Conference playoff race that much more tighter and that much more exciting for coming down the stretch here for these last 2 weeks. Because now, after last night, this has tightened up significantly, where now you look at it between Philly, Detroit, Washington, New York Islanders, and Pittsburgh. Philly, Detroit, New York Islanders, Washington, and Pittsburgh. It's basically 5 teams for 3 spots. 1 spot in the Metro and 2 wild card spots, is what you're looking at. Actually, you know what? Detroit, you got to throw out of the Metro race. Certainly 5 teams for 2 wild card spots. And then you take out Detroit, you've got Pittsburgh, Islanders, Washington, and Philly, 4 teams for 2 wild card spots and the Metro spot, the third in the Metro spot. So this is going to be absolutely incredible here, this race down the stretch in the Eastern Conference for these last 2 weeks of the regular season. Moving on now from that, Minnesota 3-2 against Ottawa. This kind of, I was frustrated by this. I thought Ottawa actually was the better team for much of that game. They had the better of the play. Marc-Andre Fleury was really good. I got to give him credit. Ottawa not as opportunistic with their chances. They had a couple opportunities on the power play when it was 2-2, and they couldn't capitalize, and Minnesota ended up scoring the game-winning goal after that. So tough to see that. The win streak gets snapped by the Minnesota Wild for the Ottawa Senators, and Minnesota wins 3-2 there. Boston, a very tight game with Nashville, but they are up for 3 third-period goals to end up with a 3-0 win over the Nashville Predators. It's now 3 losses in a row for this Nashville Predators team, and talked about how maybe after that epic point streak, things may start to go in the other direction here for the Nashville Predators, and that's now 3 losses in a row on the heels of that consecutive game point streak, franchise record getting snapped. Typical Calgary Flames. John Massey would be proud of what we saw last night from the Calgary Flames, because I know this is a John Massey special last night. We talk about the Malinsky special. The John Massey special is, and he's a proponent of this for weeks and months and years on this show since we've known the guy. John Massey has said for years, the Calgary Flames as a large home favorite, well, large favorite period, but especially at home, you do not ever trust them. You do not ever trust them in that kind of situation. And sure enough, last night, there they are, a large home favorite against a weaker team. We've seen them do this over and over again, too many times to count, that they play down to competition. They lose to shitty, inferior foes on home ice in particular. And we saw it again last night. 5-3 Anaheim. Anaheim could not win a game to save their lives until last night, where they go into Calgary and they end up beating the Flames 5-3. We finally got our dog. We had took some underdog shots, and I will continue to take some underdog shots moving forward the rest of the season, because I think this is a good time of year to take some underdog shots with the variance that you see and the higher degree of improbability, with these games on a night-to-night basis. And Anaheim plus 212 comes through. 5-3 win against Calgary. Team total as well, which I split it up with the Ducks team total. Just typical Flames. They've done this so many times, you're not even surprised anymore. 5-3 win there for the Anaheim Ducks in that game. Vegas, credit to them. They were off a pretty long road trip. Malinsky special does not come through there if you had Vancouver. I only had Vancouver in the first period, and I knew once they were down 4-1, they're probably not coming back in this game. And sure enough, 6-3 Vegas. Matt Robinson, man, he was adamant about the over in this game. I was a little worried about it because Vancouver's been such an under machine lately, but that over was as easy as it gets. 5 goals in the opening period, and it ends up being a 6-3 win for the Golden Knights. And I'm telling you what, with Vegas, they're starting to get their game in gear, starting to, I think, ramp up for the final 2 weeks of the regular season. I know Bruce Cassidy has talked about in many press conferences that he knows his team has to get to another level. They hadn't been playing great for the better part of 2024. Well, now for Vegas, you're starting to see, put a streak together. They're getting goaltending from Logan Thompson, who's been very good in the absence of Aiden Hill. 6-1 now in their last 7 games. Really, they should be 7-0 because the one game they lost was that game they led 4-0 in Nashville. They blew it. They lost in overtime 5-4. They really should be 7-0 right now. The Vegas Golden Knights in their last 7 games. So credit to them. Eichel and Marchessault were outstanding last night. And when those guys are going and you can get, the likes of Stevenson and Barbashev and Dorofeev and some of your depth guys stepping up as Carlson, and you get those guys chipping in as well. Vegas is still very much dangerous in the Stanley Cup playoffs. They're kind of like a sleeping giant right now. And don't forget, they're adding Tomas Hertl at some point in the playoffs once he's healthy and ready to go. That's a veteran. It's another offensive weapon. He's going to be energized, coming to a team that's got a chance to contend again for a Stanley Cup. And we're pretty damn confident at some point Mark Stone's going to come off be ready to go with the little LTIR shenanigans that Vegas has been repeatedly going with the last couple of years. So, yeah, they're going to be dangerous in the playoffs. There's no doubt. You cannot forget about them and their chances to come out of the West because they've got as good a chance as anybody. And remember, they might get Hertl and Stone back, at some point during the Stanley Cup playoffs as well. So, with that Western Conference, man, I mean, I think of it in my head and I think, can't we get to April 20th already? I mean, my goodness, Edmonton, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas. It's just insane how many Vancouver. I mean, they're stumbling a bit, but you still got to throw them into the mix. They figure out their shit. They can make a run in the conference as well. I mean, you think of all the teams that have a real legitimate, we can win the West type of feel to them. When these Stanley Cup playoffs start, it's just amazing. It's going to be incredible hockey coming out of the West. And then you got some of those dangerous teams that, are barely going to get in, like a Nashville. I know Nashville's, cooled off a little bit, tapered off a little bit these last few games, but just going to be absolutely outstanding. The Western Conference side of the bracket when the Stanley Cup playoffs are concerned. Before we get to Wednesday's card, I have to play a little clip of this. This was one of the better press conferences I've seen in a very long time, earlier today. We know John Tortorella lost his mind, or not lost his mind, but he was upset. He was pissed off. It was old school torts after the loss to the Islanders the other night. He was especially angry with the second period. He poured his heart and soul out there after practice earlier today for like 15 minutes talking about the state of the union of his team, where they're at, and how, he's trying to get them to play at another level because, nobody expected them to be in a playoff race. And here they are. He wants them to embrace it and how he pushes players and everything he said for like 15 minutes straight. The guy's like pouring his heart and soul and spilling his guts all over the table there when he was having that press conference today. It was one of the best press conferences I've seen in recent memory. It was genuine honesty. It's, pulling no punches and telling it like it is right now that, yeah, the Flyers have had a great season, incredible season. He loves these guys and the way they've worked. But if we're going to make the playoffs, we have to crank this thing up to another level. And he is not seeing his team doing that right now. So it was an absolutely terrific press conference overall. We can't play you the whole thing. It was 15 minutes, but we're going to play you a small snippet of it right now. John Tortorella from earlier today after practice.
Yeah, I don't remember it all, but it's not just the second period. As I watch the tape, to me, it's more than just the second period, and I don't worry about that. If a player, or it always comes down to, right? It always comes, they're going to quit on him. It follows me around. And so be it. if a player is going to quit on me, or players are going to quit on me because I'm trying to make them better people and better athletes, you got the wrong damn coach here, and you got the wrong damn people here. So I'm not sure what goes on. My job is I am going to push athletes, and I try to stay away from. I have other things on my mind that I don't give you. I was in control the other night. What I said, I meant. And quite honestly, when I watch the tape now, I'm more concerned than just the second period, because I'm so proud of the team getting here. And I guess now the narrative out there is, because I've heard from other people, that they're young, they're not supposed to be here. Bullshit. We're here. We're here. Face it. And let's be better. And I don't think we're ready to be better. And that's my problem with us right now. And it is my job. I have not done a good enough job to get them over the hump after playing those 7 games. And then each game, as it goes down, we have 6 left. I haven't done a good enough job to make them understand we have to be different now. We have to be at a different level. That's my frustration with me, and that's my frustration with the team. And if people can't handle it, so be it.
There you go, John Tortorella. And by the way, the whole thing was just gold. 15 minutes of him just telling it like it is, honest, brutal honesty. I loved it. That's exactly what he's trying to get through to the team. You've worked your ass off to get to this point. Don't fucking throw it all away with just this brutal last 2 weeks of the season and cost yourself a chance to play in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's essentially what he is trying to tell his team right now. But now it's nice to tell them that. It's nice for them to hear those words, and I'm sure they agree with Torts, because they know they've got to take it to another level, but now they've got to go out on the ice and take it to another level. They've got to up their ante. There's got to be a more commitment to defense. There's got to be more of a commitment to sacrifice and making the right play, blocking a shot, winning a face-off, winning an extra puck battle. The little things that are going to make the difference in a Stanley Cup playoff series. That's what Torts is trying to get out of this team. And we'll see now how the response is. Because in all honesty, with all due respect to the Buffalo Sabres, who are very capable right now of winning on any given night with what we've seen from them lately, and the Columbus Blue Jackets, who haven't been a pushover the last little bit of hockey either. You know, with all due respect to Buffalo and Columbus, the 2 teams Philadelphia is playing this weekend, that should be 4 out of 4 points. It should be. You got to take both of those games if you're Philadelphia, because you are at a significant disadvantage as far as the games played and games remaining column are concerned. You have fewer games left than pretty much all the other teams that are chasing you right now in the Eastern Conference. So that's the part that's going to be tough for them. They don't have as much, they don't have as many games left in their schedule compared to, your Washington and your Islanders and your Detroit and your Pittsburgh, and they've got to try to make the most of it. And win those games. So again, like I said, Buffalo and Columbus, right now, they're playing decent hockey. They're capable. Those are capable teams right now. They've been able to win a few games here and there. So that's not going to be a gimme for Philly either game. But you need still to take 4 out of 4 points in those 2 games this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how they go this weekend following the Islander game, the outburst by Torts, and then what he said today. All right, let's get into Wednesday. We've got 5 games, and we will begin with one of the 2 games tonight on TNT. The New Jersey Devils taking on the New York Rangers. We've got the Rangers minus 190, home favorites. The total right now sitting at 6.5 across the board. The New Jersey Devils, they are so fucking schizophrenic and erratic, and all those things that I just talked about with them when I discussed their loss to Pittsburgh last night. It would not at all shock me, believe it or not, if they went into New York and won tonight. It really wouldn't. It really honestly wouldn't, because the Devils have been one of these teams that they show up when you don't expect it. They play great against a superior team when you don't expect it. And then they will absolutely shit themselves like they did last night against a what we thought was a team that was equal or maybe slightly worse than them in the Pittsburgh Penguins last night. So your guess is as good as mine as to what we're going to see here with the Devils and the Rangers here tonight. This is a game I don't want any side. I don't want anything to do with the game from a side perspective. I'll find other bets to make besides that. When you look at the Rangers, they're minus 190 here. They are coming off a 5-2 loss to the Pittsburgh Penguins. You would expect them to bounce back. The one thing about the Rangers, if you look back at their performances lately, off a loss, they've been pretty damn good since the early part of January. I mean, they've only lost 2 games in a row, I believe twice since the middle part of January. And every other game after a loss, they've responded, they've bounced back, and they've gotten back into the win column. So I would only look Rangers, but, minus 190, and with just how schizophrenic the Devils are, the Devils aren't completely out of it yet either. That's another thing. I mean, last night was a crippling loss. It was a very horrific loss. 76 points. It's going to be tough for them. They're now 7 in the rears of Philly, 6 in the rears of Washington and Detroit. But, if they're going to, this is a game where, again, if you're envisioning any chance of playoff hockey, you have to come out with the mindset of we've got to get 2 points here out of this game. So the only thing I would consider is perhaps the draw, but I don't know if I trust the Devils to stay within contact of the Rangers. So it's just one of those games where I'm off a side in this one. As far as this game goes, you look at it, I think the Rangers, if you're going to bet them, the team total's the route to take, in my opinion. Now, the last time we saw Kaapo Kähkönen, and we have to assume we're going to see Kaapo Kähkönen tonight on the back-to-back because it was Jake Allen last night, that we should see the Rangers score 4 goals tonight. So that's the bet I might look at here. If anything on the Rangers side would be a team total in this game. I certainly don't want money line or at regulation or puck line or anything like that. Igor Shesterkin has been confirmed as the netminder tonight for the New York Rangers, pretty much expected. It wasn't one of his better games against Pittsburgh, but the whole team was that was not a A-level Rangers performance the other night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. It finally caught up to them, the schedule. And that gauntlet they went through, right? They played Boston, Florida at home. They had a crazy barn burner with Philadelphia, that wild high-scoring game. It went to overtime. They go on the road. They beat Colorado and Denver, huge win. Arizona, they go to the desert. That game ended up being a track meet, crazy game, 8-5. And now they come back home here against Pittsburgh the other night. And that was the spot where, you could definitely see the Rangers didn't have it. I expect different tonight off the loss. I think I would lean to a Ranger team total over. I think the over by Fecta is in play as well with the over 1.5 and the over 6.5 in this game. Like I say, it would be Rangers team total and stick to game totals more than anything here because, I don't want to be involved with a minus 190 favorite. But at the same time, I think the Rangers will score because they're facing Kaapo Kähkönen. I mean, I don't still trust Kaapo Kähkönen. I'll give him his credit. I will give him his due for shutting out the New York Islanders. He was very good in that game. I saw that game. That's the New York Islanders. And the New York Islanders can get held down on any given night by many goaltenders that they face. So I'm going to look at the over by Fecta, and we'll put a little New York Ranger team total over 3.5 here at minus 120 in pocket as well in this matchup tonight. Actually, and surprising that the Ranger team total here over 3.5 is only minus 120. So that's what we'll do, over by Fecta and over 6.5. By the way, as far as the full game over 6.5, which I do like, 9-1 to the over for the New York Rangers in their last 10 games. They've been an over machine. I think it's been a combination of things. Their offense has been lethal. They've got Zibanejad and Panarin's on fire. Alexis Lafreniere's been outstanding, the better part of the last week or so. Vinny Trocheck's been consistent all year. Adam Fox is chipping in from the blue line. Roslovic's chipped in. Kakko's even gotten a couple of goals for them. But it's mostly been Trocheck, Kreider, Panarin, Zibanejad, and Lafreniere. Those have been the guys that have been really, really strong here for the New York Rangers as of late. So, again, with expecting double K, Kaapo Kähkönen to be in net, I definitely think we're going to see goals here in this game between the Devils and the Rangers. So it's over by Fecta for me, as well as the Rangers team total over 3.5. The big question is going to be, are we going to get Matt Rempe versus Curtis McDermott? And my guess is if they're both in the lineup, that's exactly what we're going to see tonight, because of what happened the last time these two teams played. So he will. Yeah, the Amanda Stein did confirm that Curtis McDermott is likely going to be in the lineup tonight, and I think it's going to happen. Because you look at this situation tonight for the Devils, that hit on Siegenthaler, and then the fact that McDermott tried to get after him right after that hit took place, and it was not a good play by Rempe. And he deserved to get suspended for it. He's got to pay the piper. He does. He's got to, you got to settle. He's got to settle it now. This is the long time. This goes back 30 years now. A hit like that, you got to square up and take your medicine right now if you're Matt Rempe tonight. And so I think that fight's going to happen here against McDermott tonight in this game. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm sure most people are. They're both going to be in the lineup, it looks like, based on what I'm seeing right now. So it's likely going to happen. And I think Rempe won't have any problem with that as well. Plus, you know what? It's been a while since he's been a few games now since he's been in the lineup. Not to mention it's been a few games as well since he's fought. So my guess is we're absolutely going to see that tonight, Rempe and McDermott, following what happened the last time these two teams played. So that's what I'm looking. And as far as props go, Lafreniere, point prop, goal prop, good value. This kid has really picked it up. He's finally really playing to that level of that number one overall pick. Panarin's been good, over 1.5 points. Would never say no to that with Artemi Panarin. He's a threat to be 2-point guy every night for the New York Rangers, no question. So those would be some obvious prop looks for me on the Rangers side of the equation. Roslovic has value on the top line for New Jersey. I would take Luke Hughes not only to get an assist, get a point, but Luke Hughes over 1.5 points is worth a sprinkle. He is getting a shit ton of ice time. His point production's been very solid lately. Luke Hughes, you look at it, he's on a 4-game point streak for this team. He's had a couple multi-point games recently as well. Timo Meier, you got to, keep rolling with him. Alex Holtz on the second line perhaps as well, but especially Meier, Hischier, Bratt, those guys in particular, they've been really good as a top line offensively. Timo Meier, certainly a goal prop right now. He has scored 6 goals in the last 7 games for the New Jersey Devils. Now, you're not getting the great prices with him, but this is one of those games where I think you can do a point parlay with Meier, with Jack Hughes, with Luke Hughes for New Jersey. I would go with them, certainly as far as putting them in a point parlay. I'm trying to see who Nico Hischier's got 6 points in the last 3 games. You may have to put him in there as well. Bratt's on a 5-game point streak for the Devils. Like, you could do Meier, Hischier, Bratt, Jack Hughes, Luke Hughes. Then on the Rangers side, you could really do something that has got a legit chance here with how many different players are in decent form right now. For the Rangers, obviously, Breadman's got to be in a point parlay. There's no question about that. 13-game point streak for him going into this. Actually, it's not a 13-game point streak. It's 4, 5, 6, 9, 11. It's 14 points in the last 6 games for Panarin. Panarin's got to be in it. There's no question about that with what we've seen out of him for the Rangers. You could put Trocheck in there. I know he didn't have a point against Pittsburgh, but he had like 4 or 5 straight with a point. Lafreniere's got to be under consideration as well. 7 points in the last 5 games. So, you basically look at this game and you could form some kind of really nice, sweet plus price same game point parlay in this with all those players I just mentioned, and you probably could end up getting some kind of pretty good price there. And I think it's got a legit shot, especially you got so many players that as far as points are concerned, they're all in excellent point production form right now heading into this game. All right, next up, we've got the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've got Toronto minus 120, minus 115, I should say, home favorites. The total 6.5 here in this game tonight. Toronto, that was one of their better first 2 periods that I've seen from them all season against Florida. They controlled that game. They dominated that game against the Panthers. It was as impressive as they've been at any point this season. Let's see if they can carry it over here against the Tampa Bay Lightning. It is worth noting the Leafs do have a Morgan Rielly back finally from his absence and injury. So Morgan Rielly draws back in. Not yet for Mitch Marner, but they do expect Mitch Marner to return Saturday night when they play the Montreal Canadiens. But Riley comes back into the lineup on the blue line. He'll be on the top pair with Ilya Lyubushkin, Simone Benoit, Jake McCabe, your second pair, Connor Timmins, TJ Brody. Now going to be your third pair for the Leafs in this game. Tampa Bay, meanwhile, obviously you're going to see a Vasilevsky in net. They're coming off a loss at home to the Detroit Red Wings. It's one of those games, too, where, Detroit's needing points desperately. I don't think Tampa quite matched the level of urgency that the Detroit Red Wings had in that game the other night. Credit to Detroit, though. They played a very good game, and Alex Lyon played a very good game in net for the Detroit Red Wings that night in the victory. So, we'll see how this one goes tonight, but I'm really looking forward to this game. I like the draw a little bit here with this one with the Lightning and the Leafs. I like this draw. I like the Devils Rangers is a very lukewarm, light draw lean for me. This one, I like the draw quite a bit. I mean, you look at series history. Both meetings earlier this season went to overtime. 4-3 Toronto down in Tampa back in October, and 6-5 Toronto on home ice in November. Both games went to OT. You look now at last year's playoff series, that Toronto finally their first playoff series win in 20 years. 3 of the last 4 games in that series went past regulation and into overtime. That's just what you get with the Lightning and the Leafs right now. You get a lot of close games. You get a lot of competitive hockey. And so for me, there's only one thing I'm betting here as far as the side is concerned. It's not Tampa. It's not Toronto. It's the draw. Definitely. Both regular season meetings this year have gone to overtime. And 3 of the last 4 games in the playoff series last year also went to overtime. So you combine the last 6 meetings between these two teams, regular season and playoffs combined. 5 of the last 6 meetings have gone past regulation. So for me, the draw on this one, I'm off the total here. This is not one where I'm not feeling the over as much here in this game. We'll see how it goes. I like the first period over. That I do like. Now, I know we finally had Tampa's streak snapped with the first period over against Detroit. First period, that game stayed under. But this team, even with that game staying under for the last 20 games, this is still a team that's gone 16-4 to the first period over in their last 20 games. So I do like the first period over. I don't know if I'll touch this. I don't love the over 6.5. I could see it slowing down, but I think the first period over would be worth a look here in this game one more time. And it is worth noting, too, for Toronto, fast starts lately at home we've seen out of them as well. So, yeah, that first period over, I can agree with that. Both meetings this year one was 11 goals and one was 7. So, like I said, I do lean full game over. I just prefer the first period over at this point in time. And then for props for this game, because I do think there's some good prop looks, I would look in a couple of different directions for Tampa. Duclair's cooled off a little bit, so maybe we got to pump the brakes there. Braden Point, though, continues to be good. As always seems to make an impact against Toronto. So whether that's, goal prop, over 1.5 points, because this guy has played very well against Toronto in the past, playoffs and regular season. The first meeting against Toronto, he had 2 points. The second meeting against Toronto this season, he had 2 points. So Braden Point goal, Braden Point over 1.5 points. It's the time of the year that, as much as I love these bargain bin value props, games of this magnitude, teams that have a history against one another, sometimes you just don't want to overthink it. And sometimes you got to go with the guys that are the obvious choices. And Braden Point would be that here for the Tampa Bay Lightning, because he's done a good job against the Leafs in the past. Cirelli as well. That's a good point. Cirelli, Nick Paul have been Leaf killers in the past. There's no doubt about that. Nick Paul, for some reason, he scored a game winner in Game 7 against Toronto 2 years ago, if you remember. So he has done some damage in the past against the Leafs, more so at playoff time than in the regular season, but I don't hate looking in that direction. Cirelli's got 4 goals in the last 4 games, 5 points in the last 4 games for Anthony Cirelli. So he's definitely starting to heat up. And then for Toronto, there's a bunch of different, like it goes without saying, Tyler Bertuzzi's on fire. Nothing more needs to be said. We've talked about him ad nauseum the last few Leaf games. He's got to be on your list if you're going to bet any Toronto Maple Leafs props right now. Bobby McMahon on the second line is value. And I'm throwing Nick Robertson out there as well. Nick Robertson, has been heating up here. Okay, back-to-back games with a goal. Scored against Buffalo. Scored a breakaway beauty of a goal the other night against the Florida Panthers as well. So Nick Robertson really has some good value for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's going for his third straight game with a goal here tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Tricky Nicky Robertson, I think, is worth putting on the old prop sheet for this game for the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. That's about it. So that's basically, it should be a good game. There's a couple good games on this early slate. Devils, Rangers, Lightning, Leafs. So we've got some good hockey. We've got some good hockey here coming up next as well. This is the second game on TNT tonight. Edmonton and Dallas. Dallas minus 125, home favorites. The total in this game, 6.5, pretty much across the board. Dallas, I mean, they're playing some good hockey. They're ramping their game up for the playoffs, you can tell. There's not really a lot. There's not a lot to dislike right now about the play of the Dallas Stars. It's going to be Jake Ottinger versus Calvin Pickard in net. It is worth noting, before you start to say huge advantage in net for Dallas, and I agree, it is an advantage for Dallas. Calvin Pickard was in net when the Edmonton Oilers went to Dallas February 17th and beat the Stars in overtime, 4-3. So keep that in mind. It was Cal Pickard in net for that game. It was a Saturday afternoon game, February 17th. Calvin Pickard in net for Edmonton. They went to Dallas. They beat the Stars 4-3 in overtime. So it can be done that the Edmonton Oilers could win this game with Pickard, even though we know we would. We're picking which goalie out of those two we want as our goalie in the playoffs. We're taking Jake Ottinger 10 times out of 10. But it's a team game. And, you could definitely see Pickard play well potentially here in this game. He led the Oilers to victory in Dallas the last time these two teams played each other. That being said, he's also not nearly been as sharp lately. I shouldn't say that. He actually was very good against Anaheim. But Anaheim's been pretty bad lately. They beat the Ducks 6-1 with Pickard in net. It was the Ottawa game he didn't play that great. Gave up 4 goals. They lost to the Ottawa Senators 5-3. That's the game that comes to my mind that it was not as good from Calvin Pickard in that one, but his numbers overall are still pretty solid, actually. 2.24 goals against, 915 save percentage. So we'll see how this one goes. I really wanted to take Dallas initially, and I still lean to Dallas. I'm not stepping in front of a team on a 7-game win streak. I don't step in front of streaks. Rarely do I do that, and I'm not doing that right now with the Dallas Stars, but it's a Malinsky special. They're off a 4-game road trip: Arizona, San Jose, Vancouver, Seattle, and now back home. The one bit of good news is they've had 3 days off. They wrapped up that road trip in Seattle Saturday night. So they've had 3 full days to get back to the central time zone, catch their breath, exhale, recharge their batteries. This is not as bad of a spot for a team coming off a road trip returning home, because they've at least had a few days since the end of that road trip. So like I said, I want to take Dallas, but I don't love the theory of betting against Edmonton off a loss. That's not something I like doing. These Class A teams, when they're coming off a loss. Edmonton's also played Dallas pretty well. And here in Dallas, they've beaten the Stars 2 straight visits to American Airlines Center here in Big D. 6-3, Edmonton beat Dallas last year when they made the trip here. And then, of course, earlier this season, like I said, that 4-3 overtime win in Dallas, February the 17th. We'll see how this one goes. I think based on series history, I'm taking over here, but over 6.5. And this is probably going to be just a full game over for me. No trifecta, no bifecta, none of that shit. This is probably just going to be a full game over look for me here when it comes to the Stars and the Oilers in this game, simply because we have seen the Stars begin to buckle down a little bit defensively, play a few more unders, especially early in games. We've seen things be a little tight, but at the same point in time, I've seen multiple Oilers Stars games this season between the teams. The game in Edmonton in November, obviously the game in Dallas last year. The game in Dallas, again, 2 months ago in February, was that Saturday afternoon ABC game. The pace was off the charts. And I remember that game was scoreless after the first period. You know, some people were panicking about, because I was on the over in that game. And people were panicking. And I remember saying, oh, that over's dead. I'm like, well, hold on now. I know there were no goals in the first period. The pace was blistering in that game. And even in the first period, when there were no goals in that game, the pace was blistering. You know, and there were a million chances. The puck just wasn't going in. And the next thing you know, it's 3-3 after the second period. Edmonton scored 3 times in the second period, and so did the Dallas Stars. So, you know, that's why I think I'm just looking full game when it comes to this over. I could see it maybe starting slow, but with these two teams, and we know Dallas has been a huge second period scoring team and huge with the second period overs. You know, we've talked about that long-term streak with them, that definitely I could see them, the goals coming later in the game, not necessarily earlier in the game. So I'm going to go with that full game over. I think there's some truth to what Perlo says in the chat. This is usually when I'm looking at the team that's in the Malinsky special bet against spot, like Dallas is coming off the road trip. I don't want everything tied into the full game. I want something at least on the first period, because usually it's in that first 20 minutes when you come back home and you play that first home game off a road trip where you're at your worst. And so I think in theory, if you're leaning Edmonton in this game, I would say don't put everything on full game plus 105. At the very least, go 50-50 and have something on the first period, either money line or puck line, because I do think definitely the start could be a little bit slower when it comes to Dallas in this game, but maybe they get stronger as the game goes on. So, like I said, if you want to take Edmonton here plus 105, I would say at the very least consider splitting it with the first period. I think you want some kind of first period angle to back Edmonton in play here, given Dallas coming in off that road trip. So I do agree with that. If you like Edmonton, there's a chance maybe look at the first period. I'm not on Edmonton, though. Like I said, I like the way Dallas is playing. I think even though this is them coming home off a road trip, they've had 3 days off. That helps. A lot of the times when I'm talking about these bad spots coming home off a road trip, it's teams that have just 48 hours of turnaround time, or teams that are playing, you know, they get a day off and they're back on the ice the next game at home after a long road trip. That's not the case here. Dallas had Sunday off. Dallas had Monday off. Dallas had Tuesday off. So 3 days off. So I think that does help them as far as I'm concerned. Prop-wise in this game, I'm still going back to the well with Jamie. Jamie Benn, I know it finally was a quiet game from him against Seattle. No points, but Jamie Benn, goal, assist, over 1.5 points. We're going to go to the well with it at least one more time. You know, I also like Rope Hintz is heating up. Matt talked about that. Rope Hintz, when he gets going, you know, he can go on these heater goal streaks and point streaks. He's got back-to-back games with a goal now, 5 points in the last 3 games. So Rope Hintz, you know, streaky player, could see that as well for Dallas tonight. Matt Duchene, I think he's had some damage against Edmonton in the past. And then on the flip side, yes, you know what? I've got to acknowledge it now and understand that it's finally starting to happen for Matthias Ekholm. Like, Matthias Ekholm is shooting the puck a shit ton. You know, go back to March 21st. This guy has 5-4-3-5. He had one game with 0 shots, but 5-4-3-5, and then also back-to-back games with 4 shots on goal, the last 2. He's been shooting the puck a ton. He's got points in 5 straight games, and finally the puck's gone in for him. 2 games in a row with a goal entering tonight. So, yeah, I'm even on board with Matthias Ekholm goal prop tonight. Assist prop, point prop, whatever you can find, because he's shooting the puck a lot, and now the points and the production is starting to follow suit for him right now. No question about that. What else have we got here? Hyman, obviously, every game. What can I say? He's got a chance to score. There's no doubt. Corey Perry, by the way, is now on the second line from what I'm seeing tonight with Draisaitl and Henrique. So Corey Perry, and also a former Dallas Star. Why not? Corey Perry to score against his old team here tonight. So that's, I think, something I might look at in this matchup tonight. This one's a little bit more of a reach, but he's a former Star as well. Now with Edmonton, Matthias Janmark. Now I know he's only got 4 goals on the season, so this is definitely a little bit of a reach. The only thing you're going on here, the only thing that really supports you with this is the fact he's playing against his old team. Nothing he's done offensively is going to convince you he's going to score tonight, but there is that angle there with Matthias Janmark for the Edmonton Oilers tonight against his old team, the Dallas Stars, that you could consider as well. But yeah, Matthias Ekholm. I think it's at the point now where, like, Bouchard's still getting his assists for the most part, and he's good to usually get an assist, but there's no value anymore on Evan Bouchard props. The assist prop doesn't always score, but certainly the assist and the point props, the ship has sailed. We're not getting the value we got 2 years ago or last year anymore with Bouchard. The value now is Matthias Ekholm. If you're looking at blue liner props for the Edmonton Oilers at this point in time, no question, with what we've seen from him as far as shooting the puck and the production go up lately for the Edmonton Oilers for Ekholm on the blue line. All right, we got 2 games left. Next up, Seattle Kraken taking on the Los Angeles Kings. We've got LA minus 180, home favorites in this game. The total sitting at 5.5, shaded to the under. I like the over here. I'm just waiting to see if Danault's back. And we've talked about this little theory of mine for a few days now with LA. Without Phillip Danault, this is not as good a defensive team. And if he's going to miss this game, a third consecutive game with this upper body injury, he's already labeled a game time decision once again, like he was the other night against Winnipeg. This is not as good a defensive team without Phillip Danault. Phillip Danault is maybe their best defensive forward. I think he's even better defensively than Kopitar at this stage of Ange's career. Ange is an incredible defensive center, has had a Hall of Fame career, both sides of the puck at the center ice position for the Los Angeles Kings, but I do think there's been a little bit of a downturn in his defensive play at times this year for the Los Angeles Kings. And I definitely think going into this game tonight that if they're without Danault again, like these have not been a couple of Picassos or Rembrandts defensively in the D zone from the Kings the last 2 games against Winnipeg and Calgary, losing both games, giving up 4 goals in both games, and 4 goals to Edmonton the game before that. So they've given up all of a sudden 12 goals the last 3 games combined, 4 goals in each. But Edmonton, I could see it, and they did have Danault in that game. But the last 2 games without him, Calgary's offense not as good as Edmonton, Winnipeg's offense not as good as Edmonton, and it still gave up 4 goals. And if you're watching that game, they're breaking down in the D zone, they're losing coverage around the net, they're turning the puck over, they're not picking up trailers, the blue liners, jumping into the play. That's all a product of forwards not paying attention and back checking. And forwards not back checking and paying attention to the details of the game defensively to the magnitude that Phillip Danault always, brings to the LA Kings. So it goes without saying that, it's a huge loss on the defensive side, Phillip Danault. So if he doesn't play, that's a significant loss. And then you couple that on the other side with the Seattle Kraken getting Vince Dunn back in the lineup against San Jose. Now, it's a bad San Jose team, I get it, but this Seattle team, and we had talked about this for weeks now, without Vince Dunn, this offense was pathetic. They had a stretch there where they scored 2 goals or less in like 6 or 7 straight games, all of them without Vince Dunn. Okay, they scored 4 twice against Anaheim without Vince Dunn, but against a capable team, they were not scoring they were not producing offensively without Vince Dunn. Vince Dunn is a great puck mover. He gets the rush started. He jumps into the play. He gets things. He knows where to he just knows where to make plays in the offensive zone from the blue line. And they were missing that element of big time against during that rough stretch they had. So they get Vince Dunn back against San Jose. Okay, it's not only against San Jose, but they had way more expected goals in that game than recently. Shot count was up. High danger chances went up, and they scored 4 goals against San Jose. So it's a big deal getting Vince Dunn back on the blue line for Seattle in this game. So we'll see how this one goes. The only fear I have here in this game with Seattle and LA is we have not seen an over in this series since November 29th, 2022, a night that we had a live betcast that night, November 29th, 2022, and we all got to witness 9-8 Seattle beating the Los Angeles Kings in overtime in that game. I'll never forget it. It was just incredible. It was 3-3 after the first period. The game ended 9-8 Seattle in overtime. We were on the betcast that night, And we were laughing that, in a game where we saw a struggling Jonathan Quick that season in net for the LA Kings, and Martin Jones, who was pretty bad that season in net for Seattle, that we saw that total go from 6 to 5.5, and we all loved the over. We were all laughing even before the game started. We were all laughing at that line move, 6 to 5.5 with the total. And sure enough, the game goes over 5.5 and pushes on 6 after the first period. It's one of the more unforgettable, hilarious, just incredible fun nights in the history of the Ice Guys live betcast. It's actually still up on the YouTube channel. If you actually go back and look, you will see that November 29th, 2022, that betcast is still up on the channel in the archives. So check it out. I mean, we just had a blast watching that game. We were just laughing our ass off. Who the fuck bet that thing under 6 down to 5.5, and the game ends 9-8 in favor of the Seattle Kraken. So there's no doubt that it's a little concerned that we've seen nothing but unders since that night, head to head with Seattle and LA. But I still like over 5.5, and I will really like it if Danault's out again for the LA Kings in this game. So over 5.5 here. It looks like we're going to see Decord and Talbot in net for these two teams tonight, although that's not confirmed as of yet. Yeah, that's the only thing for me would be the over 5.5 in this one. I think LA needs to get right. They need to beat this team. They should beat this team, but I'm not comfortable taking LA at this price right now. Not at all. But I don't want Seattle either. For me, just the total. And then for props tonight, Kopitar, Kempe, Arvidsson. We cashed a bargain bin special of the night with Victor Arvidsson against Winnipeg, plus 300. He's up the lineup now, too, getting more ice time from Jim Hiller, playing with Moore and Dubois, Byfield, Kopitar, Kempe. So Arvidsson, Kopitar. Kopitar has been on fire lately, too. So those are some good player props there. For Seattle, yes, obviously the big news for them the other night was Shane Wright. And not only did Shane Wright come back into the lineup for Seattle from the AHL, score a goal in his first game, he got an opportunity. Like, they didn't put him on the fourth line this time, which they did last time he was playing with the Kraken. He put him on the second line, centering that second line with Eberle and Schwartz. So they are giving him the ice time here in this game, or in this current stint that he's having with Seattle. So you got to jump on it now. If he scores again, these prices are eventually going to decline a little bit and deteriorate in terms of the value. But yeah, no doubt you got to look toward Shane Wright, who's got, by the way, playing with gusto because he wants to prove, hey, I deserve to stick around here at the NHL level. So Shane Wright is plus 650 at BetMGM tonight to score a goal for the Seattle Kraken. So I think that's tremendous value. I'll be on that without question. And then as well for Seattle, Eeli Tolvanen on the top line now. With that whole line was outstanding against San Jose. Tolvanen, Beniers, and Bjorkstrand did a lot of the damage there. Tolvanen, Beniers, and Bjorkstrand. Any one of those three guys are probably good player prop looks right now. It's funny because they've got Jared McCann, who's supposed to be one of their best offensive players, and he still is. They put him down the lineup a little bit, third line right now for Seattle. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, for me, take your pick with Tolvanen, Beniers, Bjorkstrand for the top line, and absolutely Shane Wright for the Seattle Kraken, plus 650 to score a goal is just outstanding value. All right, next up, final game of this card for this Wednesday night, Vancouver Canucks, Arizona Coyotes. We've got Vancouver minus 145, road favorites. The total, 6, shaded to the over in this game. Obviously not a good performance from Vancouver last night, 6-3 loss to the Vegas Golden Knights. Now they are on a back-to-back here on the road against the Coyotes. Not the easiest of game to try to bounce back from. Back-to-back means we should see, and he did get the win in his first start this season in net for the Canucks on Sunday afternoon against Anaheim, 3-2. We should see the Latvian once again, Artur Silovs, get the start here for the Vancouver Canucks. Hasn't been confirmed just yet, but I do think we're going to end up seeing him in between the pipes tonight for the Vancouver Canucks. It looks like projections are Connor Ingram for the Arizona Coyotes right now at this point in time. Vancouver's owned this series. They have beaten the Coyotes 6 of the last 7 head-to-head meetings, although I should point out the one Arizona win was last year in this building, 3-2 at the Mullet Arena for the Coyotes. Arizona, they played very competitive hockey, and they're playing an exciting brand of hockey right now. 3 straight overs with Arizona, 6, 8, and 5, the goals they've scored in the last 3 games. So they have really done a nice job offensively. 19 goals in the last 3 games combined. The young kids are all right, which I said the other day about Arizona, but it's true. I like what I've seen lately. Keller, Bukestad, and Schmaltz on the top line have been good. Logan Cooley had a hat trick recently. We love Dylan Guenther. You don't sleep on Josh Doan, this young kid, of course, son of Shane Doan, who, of course, wowed everybody with 2 goals in his NHL debut. I just feel this has to be an over here, an over trifecta even. And that's what I'm going to go with here, over trifecta. Now, Vancouver had that great underrun. The concern is Rick Tocchet's going to drill it into these fucking guys' heads that after 6-goal allowance last night, and I know he was not happy about allowing 6, that they're going to tighten this thing up, button it up, and 2-1, 3-1, here we come here tonight with the Canucks and Coyotes. That does concern me. That really, really does. But one thing I know about Arizona and the way they've played lately, and I know Andre Tourigny has been preaching this lately in his press conferences and from what I've heard, he wants this team to push pace at every single opportunity. And if you're ever going to push pace, this is a spot to do it. You've got a Vancouver team playing 3 back-to-back on the road, push the pace here, tire them out a little bit, try to get the lead early, and then they really have to open up the game. And that really plays to Arizona right now. That's got this youthful exuberance and all this speed and all this skill. And with what we're seeing from these young kids, and they're a very fast team. They have a very fast lineup right now, the Arizona Coyotes for sure. So I think if they're ever going to push pace here, it's got to be tonight. It feels like, and again, we're talking about, it's kind of like in the NBA where sometimes I say the home team usually dictates the way, the pace of the game and the tempo. If you're a half-court defensive team in the NBA, but you're the home team, you'll control pace. If you're a run-and-gun team in the NBA, you're the home team. Oftentimes, you'll control pace. I know Arizona wants this to be an up-and-down affair. Vancouver does not, but Arizona does. So I'm going to go with the over trifecta here, over 1.5, both teams to score first period, over 6. I especially like that the full game over is 6 and not 6.5. With all due respect to Seelovs, who was pretty solid against Anaheim, I think this is a more dangerous team to try to shut down tonight for him, with all due respect to what he did against Anaheim. 2 goals allowed on 22 shots. I think Anaheim's got in better offensive form right now and just got a lot more weaponry right now for Seelovs and for the Canucks to deal with at this point in time. So, yeah, I'm a little worried that after a game like last night, Vancouver's focus is going to be tighten this thing up, tighten up defensively, shut it down. I don't know if Arizona is going to let them. They've been an over machine on this homestand. I've been on all these overs in this homestand with Arizona, the Columbus game, the Nashville game, the Rangers game. So I'm going to go back to the well with it one more time, even despite those concerns I have. As far as props tonight, Höglander, again for Vancouver. As long as he stays on the top line, he's worth a look. You could go goal prop and even point prop for Connor Garland, someone we've talked about. Not only that, but he's against his former team as well, the Arizona Coyotes. In fact, him and his coach, Rick Tocchet, playing against their old team, the Arizona Coyotes here. So, I like Connor Garland props, Nils Höglander props. I didn't come through last night, Dakota Joshua, but as long as he stays on the second line, there's value. For Arizona tonight, lots of good options here. Nick Bukestad is one of my favorite looks tonight because he's just been on fire, and nobody's paying attention to it. Nobody. I am, though. He has points in 6 straight games. 7 points in the last 6 games, and he is on a 4-game goal streak. Goals in 4 consecutive games tonight for Nick Bukestad coming into this game tonight for the Arizona Coyotes. So that's absolutely someone that people are sleeping on right now with the way he's playing, and that's why he's in the center top line center spot now with Clayton Keller, because of the offensive contributions he is providing this team, playing with Keller and with Schmaltz right now. And like I said, with Bukestad as well, it's taken some time to adjust. And, even though it's not on the bargain bin level, plus 290 for a guy that scored 4 straight times, 4 goals in 4 straight games is pretty damn good. So yeah, Nick Bukestad for Arizona. You could go Logan Cooley and Gunther on the second line. Sprinkle on Doan. Doan's down the lineup, it's for him since that 2-goal debut. He does have a point in all 3 games that he's played. 5 points in the 3 games. He's had assists in the last 2 games, not goals, but still with Josh Doan, the goal prop's worth a look. Unfortunately, the goal prop is all you can find with Josh Doan right now. You can't find assist props, you can't find goal props, or you can't find point props, you can't find assist props right now for this for Josh Doan at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, the Josh Doan shots on goal. That is something to keep an eye on too, because it's over 1.5 minus 140. And I will be betting more shots on goal props once we get into the playoffs. He finally got held down. He only had 1 shot on goal against the Rangers. But before that, he had 6 against Columbus, 5 against Nashville. And again, his shot on goal prop is over 1.5. So we'll see how this goes for him tonight. But you're right, based on the aggregate and the average shots per game that Josh Doan has had in the 3 games, you would still think over 1.5 shots on goal for him might be a good bet here tonight. All right, great stuff. That is the Wednesday NHL card. Shout out to everyone in the chat. We appreciate it very much. Hit the like button on the way out. And a reminder, we posted the schedule yesterday. We will post it again right now. Here it is. Ice Guys April live betcast schedule. There it is. 5 live betcasts coming up here in the month of April. 3 of them will be free or 2 of them will be free for all. 3 of them will be Patreon exclusive. Tuesday, April 9th, next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, free for all. Everybody can attend. DM or email me or Alex for a spot on the betcast. We'll send you the link for the betcast next Tuesday, April 9th, before it begins. The following Tuesday, April 16th, it's the last week of the regular season. That one will be Patreon exclusive, so you must be a Patreon member for just $10 per month at patreon.com/iceguys to take part in the Tuesday, April 16th betcast. And then we have 3 Stanley Cup playoff live betcasts coming up at the end of the month. Monday, April 22nd, that one will be free for all. Thursday, April 25th, that one will be Patreon exclusive. And Tuesday, April 30th, that one will be Patreon exclusive. So again, we've got 5 live betcasts coming up here in the month of April. 2 free, 3 Patreon exclusive. And if you want to join us for the 3 live betcasts, the 3 live betcasts that are Patreon exclusive, that's how you do it. Sign up, patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. Again, our Patreon exclusive live betcasts are there. 3 of them this month. Goalie charts, totals charts, bonus content, our daily sides, totals, and player props posted there each and every day on the page. So again, make sure you sign up and subscribe. Now's a great time to get there and become a Patreon member with the playoffs approaching. And again, your $10 per month subscription goes a long way to keeping the show going long term. Patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. And last but not least, check out the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your Ice Guys merch. Right now, we've got a sale ongoing at the store now through Saturday. 20% off all orders at the Ice Guys store. 20% off all orders now until Saturday, April the 6th. iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Make sure you check that out and get yourself some Ice Guys gear and Ice Guys merch at a discounted price. All right, we are back with Bargain Bin Special of the night and Best Bet coming right up, right after we hear from our great daily sponsors, Boston Hemp Inc. All right, Boston and Pink. Make sure you check them out. 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night for this Wednesday slate. I'm going to go back to the young kid who impressed in his return to the NHL the other night for the Seattle Kraken. Shane Wright. You're going to give me him in the second line center spot at plus 650 at BetMGM to score a goal tonight. Clear some of the best value on the entire board tonight as far as a goal prop, in my opinion. And someone that's getting the opportunity and wants to stick at the NHL level for this team long-term moving forward. A point to prove, playing with more ice time, greater opportunity. So Shane Wright, Seattle Kraken for me, plus 650 for my bargain bin special of the night for this for this Wednesday NHL card. My best bet for this Wednesday NHL card, I'm going to go back to that same game, Seattle, LA. I don't know for sure if Danault is going to be out. I don't know for sure. But what I do know is that without Danault in the lineup, I have now watched this team for 2 games without him. They have not looked like the same defensive team. I don't think that's going to, I think that might continue tonight. Seattle also on the flip side, their team as far as offense is concerned, we saw it with Shane Wright. He's now on the team. He's on the second line. That gives them a little more punch. The top line's playing well. Vince Dunn being back on the lineup gives them a much different and better presence and balance offensively for this team. So the ability to get over 5.5 at plus money, plus 104 between these two teams, given the situations roster-wise with both teams right now, is well worth best bet material. Seattle, Los Angeles, over 5.5, plus 104 for my best bet here for this Wednesday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back with you tomorrow with Alex B. Smith in the building for a Thursday edition of the Ice Guys.